Gamers! Popcorn here. A lot of people have been talking recently about the differences between World of Warcraft and old school Runescape. And while I like a lot of their points and I see a lot of their discussions as productive, I feel like people are failing to identify the key differences that really make the games distinct. For context, I've been playing WoW since about 2005. Like most people, my older brother played it, and after watching him for a while, I decided to take over the account. In contrast, I've only played RuneScape for about 2.5 years now, and I think the differences between the games and what each person is looking to do is kind of what has tilted me towards RuneScape. I want to start this video off by saying the games are fundamentally different in their design philosophy, but this is a good thing. I don't think that either game should 100% copy each other, because then what we have is two copies of the same game. Their differences can exist. It does not make one better than another, but it will determine how much one person enjoys one over the other. Now, a strange place to start, but I think is quintessential to the discussion, is the communities between the two games. Because this entire discussion about WoW and old school RuneScape is really the difference of opinion between the two communities. World of Warcraft is a community divided into different roles, different classes, different specs, and different content. A disc priest in PvP is going to have a very different outlook and opinion on the game than a fire mage in PvE. And I think this division is what really hamstrings WoW from getting to its best form. I think because so many players have so many different things that they're interested in, and each one of them has to kind of coexist with each other, I think it can create a lot of pressure points where the devs are pulled in a lot of different directions and kind of have to try and please everyone as best as they can without looking at an individual's experience regardless of what they play. Old school RuneScape, on the other hand, is sort of a community united. Everyone is going through the exact same set of steps to get to the exact same point. While there may be some variance because some players choose Iron Man and others don't, most of the time, everyone is going to be leveling crafting. And when they level crafting, it's going to be the exact same process to level crafting, just with different items. Everyone's going to level attack. Everyone's going to level rune crafting. So we can kind of bond over a shared experience of 500 hours of rune crafting, whereas two players in WoW will have different experiences with different pain points and, peaks that may or may not be as shareable. Specifically, I think back to like raid bosses, where some classes really love a certain boss and other classes really hate a certain boss, which can skew the perception of the quality of the boss. I think these are important things that players need to identify, that you don't really have a complete picture of any one experience in WoW that you do in RuneScape. Segueing out of this is the availability of group content in both games. In WoW, you have dungeons, which are 5-man, raids, which can be 10, 25, or 40, arenas, which are 2-man, 3-man, 5-man, if you're playing Classic, and questing. The main problem with the group content in World of Warcraft is that it is an absolute necessity if you want to gear a character. I think a lot of people don't enjoy the process of queuing up for groups and going through like the social comparison measurement section of the game. Like when you queue for a mythic dungeon key, people are using add-ons to check your performance not only in dungeons but in raids, to check your gear score, to check every single component to make a measurement of how valuable you will be as a teammate. It's like recruiting someone for like the World Championship Finals. And some people treat it just like this. Others follow the example of like their favorite streamer who say never invite XYZ. And so if you play XYZ, you are so fucked. Old school RuneScape has like 20 different Mage Tower equivalent bosses. These are solo experiences that you must conquer on your own and can only be defeated by you alone. In tandem, they have some duo bosses like the newly released Royal Titans and Yama, and they have 3 raids that I don't think have a limit to the amount of players. That or it's like absurdly high. But the differences between the two, I think are important to identify that while some people may enjoy the social aspect of queuing up for keys, meeting for random players, joining a guild, and balancing 20 people's schedules in order to accomplish 1 or 2 boss kills a week, there are others who enjoy doing things on their own and having their own set of progression. The last thing you'd want, in an MMO at least, is to log into the game and realize, oh, I can't really do anything today. Like, I have goals that I want to accomplish, but I cannot meaningfully do anything that contributes to those goals until Tuesday or Thursday night. And that's a step that a lot of players in WoW reach, which we've called raid logging, where basically outside of raid, there's nothing you can really do. You just kind of have to wait for raid nights, which disincentivizes people from logging into the game at all, unless they're alting, you know? Now, what rewards can we look for from these encounters? This is another really big point that I feel like people are not identifying. In World of Warcraft, the gear you get from a boss is random, and they're trying to get all 30-something specs, different pieces of gear that feel unique and powerful. What this creates is situations that are all too common, where you'll kill a boss maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, and the item that you're looking for from that boss will not come. This would not be a problem if you weren't locked out of getting a reward more than once per week. I think one of the biggest things that WoW could learn from RuneScape and still keep its identity is the removal of raid logging. I don't think anyone finds enjoyment in being locked out of grinding for something when it is the entire reason that they play a game. Not to mention, the gear that you require in WoW only has a lifespan of about 6 to 12 months whenever the next patch cycle hits. It's extremely rare that an item from a previous tier or even expansion is relevant in current WoW. I mean, the only examples I can think of are like Font of Ishara. Now what this means is, you put in all this effort and work into gear that will be obsolete at the next patch, meaning I haven't played my mage in about a year. If I logged in on my mage today, despite having years of playtime on it, I would not be able to do a single piece of content. So all that time invested is kind of just wasted time. You have the memories, but it doesn't contribute towards my current standing in the game. In old school RuneScape, gear is evergreen, meaning that gear acquired 10, 15 years ago is still going to be relevant in the current game. So like things like the Fighter's Torso, Bando's Tacit, are not only still actively hunted by players at endgame, they're also useful to players who are in mid-game, because it's sort of a linear progression that goes throughout the ages, while WoW is like a curve that keeps going up and down. To compound on this, RuneScape bosses also drop secondaries, which are ingredients used in skilling. So think of like fish to cook, ores to be smelted. These are things that I think WoW can learn from by, if you kill a boss and you don't get the item that you're hoping for, you should still get some sort of compensation in the form of making money, at least. Now, I realize that the differences in systems are going to make it a lot harder for WoW to kind of create this system or copy this system, or even adapt it to their own. But a lot of times, the only things you get from a raid boss when you kill it is going to be gold, and maybe the skip quest item or something for another quest line that is completely unrelated to your character's progression in gear. Even having some unique drop that comes from all the raid bosses that could upgrade your gear, kind of like what they have with the crests. But the difficulty is that crests can be farmed from any piece of content, and this is only available on the first kill of the week, and they're capped weekly, so even if you kill the entire raid, you will only get enough crests to cap you for the week. I think the systems are flawed, and they really should work harder on finding something to give to the raid bosses to make it worth the player's time. This is even worse in Mythic Dungeons, where if you are actively running high-level Mythic Dungeons using flasks and pre-pots, you are in fact losing money by doing some of the hardest content in the game. I think that Mythic Dungeons should provide way more rewards than even raid bosses do, because of the difficulty in completing them, and these rewards can even scale based off of keystone level, whether you time it or you brick it, a whole bunch of factors that can help players make money and enjoy the game more, rather than force them to do things like farming or buying tokens away from these systems. Speaking on the money and the economy, WoW really only has 3 different modes. There's farming mode, buying mode, and leveling up older profession mode. So farming mode is going to be those players who fly around the world mining all the ores. They did a good job of trying to help these players by making it independent so other people can't steal your veins or your herbs anymore, but they haven't really done much for buyers. The difficulty in WoW is going to be in the soulbound system. I have not seen anyone talk about this yet, but I think this is the biggest fundamental that separates WoW from old school RuneScape. In WoW, when you get an item from a piece of content, it is going to be soulbound, meaning your character that looted it is the only character that can ever own this item ever. I believe this is a massive, outdated system. While it's true that players should have to go in and do content to get pieces of rewards, I don't think that making it 100% mandatory is in the spirit of progression in an MMO anymore. In old school RuneScape, I am able to avoid content that I do not enjoy and substitute it with content that I do enjoy in order to save my sanity. In WoW terms, if I want the Dimensious Trinket, I can go and do Mythic Dungeons day and night until I save up enough gold from the rewards from the chest to buy a trinket. I could buy anything. I believe that some items should be soulbound. You should not be able to trade achievement rewards. You should not be able to trade specific questline rewards, artifact weapons. Soulbound does have a place in the game, but I think in terms of the economy and an individual player's experience, making every item available to every player would help reduce the amount of boosting services that are going on, would incentivize people to buy tokens even more, which World of Warcraft and Blizzard love, and make each player be able to do the content that they enjoy and still get the massive progression that they're searching for. The only story I have is just circle back to doing arenas in Shadowlands. That shit was torture, but it was required to get the arena gear. If I could just do dungeons and buy 2100 PvP gear, I don't think I've really taken away from the people who have earned 2100 PvP gear. I think the real measure of accomplishment should come in cosmetics rather than gear. People who get seasonal gladiator mounts, AOTC mounts, cutting edge mounts, this is enough of a symbol of skill and status that I shouldn't be locked out of getting gear unless I match these accomplishments, especially when the gear's lifespan is so low. If these were evergreen pieces of gear, then I could see that argument better. The difficulty in this is, what should WoW adapt and what should they not adapt? While I've said throughout this video that I believe that World of Warcraft would benefit from these systems, the structure of World of Warcraft is more of a bite-sized adventure, while old school RuneScape is more of a lifelong journey. I think that having the economy of old school RuneScape and the system of financials is enough to differentiate between the two games from their moment-to-moment gameplay. In the moment-to-moment gameplay, WoW wins out 100% of the time. It has the most immersive and fluid combat of any MMO. They consistently design good classes until midnight. They have really fun and unique specs that do different things and accomplish the same job. And I think you get a really unique experience from just about every class that you play. For old school RuneScape, everyone is kind of doing the same adventure over and over again. While it can be changed with Iron Man, people are usually going to do level attack, and then level defense, and then level strength, and then level prayer, and then you get it. Like, you basically have 24 skills, and you do them sequentially, keeping them around the same level in order to do quests and such. But even if you make a new account, you're going to do the exact same thing, just with different methods. I think this is best displayed in the difference of endgame content between the two games. In WoW, you have extremely complex mythic raid bosses that I believe are only complex because of the amount of moving parts that are involved. While no one mechanic is difficult in theory to understand or execute, it's the fact that you need 4, 6, even 10 players to execute it at the same time, and if one person messes up, everyone dies. Old School RuneScape has a much more individualized challenge, where I would argue that Awakened Leviathan is harder than any Mythic Raid boss for any role, like individually. And this just goes to show that you can create meaningful challenge without needing to have that sense of community. I think the Mage Tower in WoW is an excellent parallel, but I don't think any boss in the Mage Tower was that difficult mechanically. It was more of a concept check. If you knew what you were doing, it wasn't that hard. If you had to figure it out, you were going to die. I think that about wraps it up. A lot of the differences between the two games come down to the fundamental design of how a character progresses, because that is the essence of an MMO. While a lot of people will argue about the collection log in RuneScape and how WoW should match that, the achievements in WoW and how RuneScape should match that, the differences in leveling, how your character has one level that they basically can never do again, versus in RuneScape, even after you hit 99, you can still get XP up to 200 million, which kind of synthetically creates that sense of accomplishment. I think the biggest differences between the two games is how they treat gearing, the economy, and sources of income. While WoW has the bite-sized adventure with friends, which can create a lot of memories and good times, RuneScape has a grueling grind at first that then turns into the most open-ended and beautiful player-driven choice that I've ever experienced. I think as soon as players can decide which one they prefer more, it'll help them identify why they dislike one game over the other. And I think this is most important to people who refuse to try one game or the other. There are different things to be experienced and gained from both, and they're both very good games to play. I want to say thank you so much for watching, if you stayed till the end. We're going back to regular uploads once a week. This time it's on Mama. I'm going to be focusing a lot on gaming, society, and a bit of psychology, just because those are the topics that are most interesting to me. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to stick around. It'll be appreciated. And if not, I'm sure there's someone out there better suited for you.